The position vector r at time t seconds of a small particle p is shown below and given by this expression here. Determine the change in displacement, note that's displacement so that's a vector, between t is 0 and t is 3 pi by 2. So r of 0 is going to be, so that's going to be 4 because cos of 0 is 1, that's going to be 2, so it's going to be 2, and the sine of 0 is 0, so it's going to be 2, 0, and r of 3 pi by 2, so the cosine of 3 pi by 2 is 0, and any multiple of that is 0, so that's going to be a 0, and sine of 3 pi by 2 is negative 1, and 3 of those, so 3 pi by 2's, that would actually take us to pi by 2. So if we're thinking about 3 pi by 2, another 3 by 2 is there, and another 3 by 2 is up there. So that would end up being 1. So we've got 4 plus 2 is 6. Don't want to put minus 6. So just to be clear there, that means that that one would be negative 4, and then we're taking away positive 2, so that's where we get the negative 6 from. So the change in displacement is going to be, well, what have we done? We've gone from 2 to 0, so that's negative 2. We've gone from 0 to negative 6, so that's negative 6. Okay, so now we want to determine the velocity vector of p when t is 3 pi by 2. So to get v of t, we're going to differentiate. So cos differentiates to minus sine, so that's negative 4 sine t, and then that's going to end up being plus 6, because of the 3 coming out, remember the chain rule, sine 3t, and then here sine goes to cos, so it's 4 cos t, and then that will be minus 6 cos 3t. So v of 3 pi by 2 is going to be negative 4 sine 3 pi by 2, so that's negative 4 times negative 1, so that's going to be 4, and plus 6, because 3t, we discussed that up here. And for the cosine, they're both going to be negative, so that's going to be 0. So that is just going to be 10, 0 meters per second. Okay, so now we want to determine the total distance travelled. Now, this thing starts off when t is 0. So if we think about the period of this one and this one, the period is 2 pi. This one and this one have a period of 2 pi by 3. And that means overall it must be the longer of those, so it must be 2 pi. So we're going to have an integral from 0 to 2 pi of the modulus of v dt. So that's the integral from 0 to 2 pi of the square root of negative 4 sine t plus 6 sine 3t squared plus 4 cos t minus 6 cos 3t squared. Now just pause the calculator while I typed all of that in, and it comes to 42.02, as we can see there.